haven't been able to, I think, to build an infrastructure in America that is adequate enough to provide equitable access for, especially for low income and people with disabling conditions. I mean, you see that obviously in Montgomery County. I mean, the housing appreciation alongside rising construction costs has just put the squeeze on. And now middle income households can't afford the median rent, they can't afford the median home sale in Montgomery County. My name is Wyatt Schroeder. I'm the executive director of Hemlock and Forge. We're a benefit corporation trying to increase access to supportive and affordable housing across Pennsylvania and Delaware. Unfortunately, yeah, I think the mission is becoming more and more relevant of how we increase access to housing, because it's not getting easier for families out there. My first intersection with HealthSpark was when Russ Johnson was chairing Your Way Home back in like 2012, 2013. That was kind of one of my first introductions to seeing philanthropy stand up as like a coalition leader and saying like, yes, we're not just a funder, we're not just gonna inspire a couple thoughtful studies. It's like, no, we're willing to actually build in some capacity that can help drive coalitions that tackle some social determinants of health. So then fast forward, began working with HealthSpark again under Emma's leadership. And I think it's still a similar question. How can HealthSpark Foundation and how can philanthropy do a little bit more? What is its specific role right now to drive housing equity? We did a research study and analysis around Montgomery County and the region just to see what housing access was looking like. And then a little bit of a landscape study to understand how the financial industry and how philanthropy is stretching itself a little bit in order to get more involved in more direct ways. And really where we landed, to no surprise, I think came back to the core of HealthSpark's mission, which is recognizing there's a need for more around community power, about we need to see more local leadership standing up, whether that's local township managers driving policy change, but also some local coalitions who are coming alongside households that need more access to housing capacity, what community capacity looks like. So how can we have more mission-minded developers in this space that are driving change? But those mission-minded developers need capital. So that got us back to mission-aligned investing, of recognizing that if you're a philanthropy with an asset base, grants, yes, are needed to drive some capacity building for local nonprofits and mission-minded developers. Grants alone can't be enough. We need to be thinking about some loans, lines of credit, guarantees, some other ways of looking at our asset base so that we can get involved in driving new housing opportunities. There's like mission-aligned investing, which could be kind of still some of the core calculus of investing, but just with the heart of a social mission. HealthSpark is asking the question of, great, if we do mission-aligned investing, how can that also inspire our own direct leadership? That was one of my takeaways when we started like interviewing other philanthropies that are doing mission-aligned investing. I felt like there was some folks that are doing some really great work, but they're not acting too differently than just underwriting as like a community lender. And I think we're used to saying like, oh, they're a leader in the space if you do that in that way. I don't know if that's being a leader in the space, to be honest. I think being a leader in the space is trying to drive others to do things as well. And so I think that's what I see is a little bit different with HealthSpark, is the willingness to, yes, to put your money in mission-aligned investing, but also when you use mission-aligned investing as like a leading indicator of some community leadership around housing. I think there's a reason why Pottstown only develops about 3 new units a year. And that reason isn't like simply fixed if 3 developers come to town. And that reason isn't simply fixed if the borough council takes on zoning. I think there's a strong need for real coalitions set up in these local places, and those coalitions need a very, very strong backbone. And it's a lot better if that backbone is supported by some kind of pooled funding resource. With our housing work, I think we're starting a little bit with that pooled funding resource, which is, okay, we've got $1 million committed to the Monco Housing Loan Fund. How can that attract other money? I'd be kind of curious to see how can that loan fund continue to attract capital over the time, but then use that capital to really inspire some local coalitions that are pulling smaller mission-minded developers into spaces. You know, ideally more folks that are Black and brown that are taking hold around their own communities and are feeling inspired to get trained up and have someone who gives them technical assistance on how to turn that duplex down the block that's always been an eyesore, that they're tired of having their kids walk by on the way to the bus. Really getting that rooted and using your loan fund to be as mission aligned as it changes very directly, very specific blocks. I think there's an urge from boards that once you do something that's mission aligned, just get out the door. And then there's no shortage of things to inject your capital into, especially in housing. Like there's always another housing deal. But it's also really easy, to be honest, to fund something that would have gotten funded anyway. Like we want to fund something that wouldn't have happened without our financing. And I think the story of like Norristown, the story of parts of Lansdale, the story of Pottstown, even parts of Willow Grove, I think are that. We're just not seeing a certain type of housing come together. And so that kind of patience and coalition building is a lot longer and harder. But I think that'd be my vision for HealthSpark. Nice thing is this sign that's already been loud with HealthSpark, but other folks I talked to, some other foundations that I know that want to get into mission line investing a little more clearly, their board gets really stuck on returns, on like what counts as mission line investing, and it becomes this kind of frustrating process of conversation of where the line is between returns and being mission oriented. I like that doesn't seem to be something that's stopped you all from continuing on. So I appreciate that HealthSpark, I think, has had the right intention, around this of being very, very collaborative. So I think it means good things are coming.